Look, I'm back. Just like I said, session is over, so I have more time for this. But now that session is over, I've got a question for you. What have you learned? And not from these videos, and I'm not talking about if your bill passed or not. We're going bigger than that. All these learning moments we're going to talk about apply whether your bill passed or not. Why? Because if it passed and there was opposition, you can expect there to be efforts to roll it back in the future. If it didn't pass, I know you're not giving up that easily. So you want to do everything you can right now to come back stronger next year. So you're watching the right video because on today's Better Advocacy in 10 minutes or less, we're going to look at the four things. One, two, three, four. The four things you want to learn from the legislative session. So what do you want to understand so that you can learn going forward? All right, number one, what were your bill's perceived weaknesses? Number two, who are those legislative allies and opponents? Number three, who were the organizational allies and opponents? And number four, who were your allies in the press and who were your opponents in the press? All right, let's hop right on in here. I say perceived weaknesses because it doesn't matter if it is an actual weakness of your bill. It's how the legislators and their staff saw sections of your bill. You want to pay attention to what causes confusion and what they didn't like. Look at your bill text. Is there an actual weakness? Is there something that's ambiguous or contradictory? Is there an unintentional legislative loophole? If this is the case, then you want to tighten up the bill language. You may need to work closely with the state bill drafters or hire a drafter if you don't have those skills in your coalition. After you've strengthened the language, then over the summer, take it to those legislators who express concerns and see if your edits can get their votes. Or is it a matter of education? Often bills are on such a niche topic that legislators and their staff don't know enough about the policy and are hesitant to vote for something they don't understand. If you got more puzzled looks than rebuttals to your bill during the session, then you want to work on an education campaign during the offseason. Identify the key legislators, set up educational meetings with them and their staff, be ready to do deep dives using research, press reports, and stories from impacted constituents. By educating now, you'll have their vote in the future. You also want to pay attention to which arguments against your bill gained traction. If you didn't catch that during session, go back and review recordings from the hearings and pay attention to what arguments against your bill captured the attention of legislators. This will help you understand the political mood surrounding your bill and help you craft your strategy to get more votes and get that bill passed next time. All right, let's look at these legislative allies and opponents, because talking about votes, you also want to learn from who your legislative allies and opponents were, especially the ones you weren't expecting. Who were you not expecting to vote for or against your bill? For those surprise yay votes, are these people you can bring on board as a co-pacer next time so your bill will have broader support? Reach out to them, thank them, and ask if they'd be willing to be more active next session. For the opponents, find out why they voted against your bill. Sometimes there are deeply held philosophical differences, and you won't be able to flip those votes. Other times, a loud or influential constituent may have gotten to them. See if there's a way you can repackage your arguments so that they vote for you next time. Notice I said repackage your arguments, not change your bill. You don't want to give away what's important to you to get a vote. If you have to water down your bill to get it to pass, it might not even be worth the effort. Let's go on to organizational allies and opponents. This isn't about the groups you knew going into session, those in your coalition, or those you knew would be there to oppose you. It's about the ones you weren't expecting. Some may have shown up to speak for or against a bill at a hearing, or maybe they went directly to your patron. Make a list of all of them. If you need to ask the patron's aide what other groups spoke for or against it, do that. Watch recordings of the hearings to see who went to the podium to defend or attack your bill. Then reach out to the ones you don't know, especially if they seem well organized or well connected. You want to strengthen your allies and mitigate the attacks of your opponents. Pay special attention to the ones who put out arguments that the legislators listen to, once again, either for or against. These may have influence because of connections, size, track record, or just their ability to run a campaign. If you get them working with you, that will make your job easier next year. And while we're on the topic of making your job easier, let's talk about the press. If you can get the press, either the mainstream media or the partisan media, if you're specifically targeting either liberals or conservatives, then you just made your job that much easier. When you can get earned media coverage, basically stories in papers or on TV stations and radios that are part of their normal programming and format and not something you paid for, then that earned media gets you the independent and respected voice of that media outlet behind your bill. Take a look at the clippings you saved during session on your bill and policy. See who wrote about them favorably and write an email to them thanking them for the work they've done reporting, and offer yourself as a source for future stories on the topic. As you prove your worth to them, they'll begin to reach out to you directly, and you will have the ability to craft the narrative coming from the press. All right, that's great for the positive ones, but what about those negative stories? I'm not talking about the ones that you feel are negative, but are actually a balanced report on both sides of your policy. But those editorials, op-eds, and reports that use loaded language against you or are otherwise attacking you. Basically a hit piece on you or your policy. First, look at the reporter's work. If all they do are hit pieces, then your best bet is to convince them to do one on the policy that opposes yours. But if they're a reputable reporter, reach out to them. Try to have a conversation with them and find out why their piece seems so negative. If you can, educate them on your topic. Send them other media clippings, reports, and first-person stories that show why your policy is a good one for your state. And in all of this, be kind. Not only are you educating, you're developing a contact that can move from an adversary to an ally. So there you go. The 4 things you need to learn from session to make your bill successful next time. So number 1, the bill's perceived weakness. Number 2, who those legislative allies and opponents are. Number 3, who are those organizational allies and opponents. Number 4, who are your press allies and opponents. All right, that wraps it up. I hope you learned something and you can apply this to last session to get you ready for next session. And until next time, this is David Smith with
Better advocacy in 10 minutes or less.